Moose, are you going to help me feed the worms? No. Moose is tired. Let's check on Wally. Hey, birthday boy. Hello. You going to help me check on the worms? No. You going to go back to sleep? Okay. They've been playing pretty hard. It's Wally's birthday, so they've been having a good time getting all the attention. So it might just be us checking on the worms today. And honestly, in this moment, I realized, or actually, like right when we were starting to record, we have a 4-tier system, right? A 4-tier tower. 3 of the 4 towers are active and doing really well. Like, I'm really proud of myself, especially as we're coming up on the 1-year marker here. I'm really proud of myself. And the other tier, this one right here, is in starving mode, and we're just trying to bring those worms out of it. So we're gonna feed today 3 of the towers, and I realized that I make some of these up in advance, and I'm like, oh, I have some, and I food, and I don't really think about it, but they've been eating a lot more, which is a good thing, but it also means that I might not have enough toilet paper rolls necessarily. So thankfully I have some frozen grapes that went stinky on us, mostly on accident. We purchased some that were a little over ready to be eaten. So instead of wasting them, we froze them. So we're gonna have 1 toilet paper roll for each, and then some grapes. And then I'm a little light on the bedding today. If you guys haven't checked out my pre-composting experiment videos, I highly encourage you to do that, because I'm trying to figure out what I can do with all the extra food scraps that we generate that I don't necessarily want to freeze and, keep in containers forever and ever. I'm trying to figure out how I can break it down quicker. So I've got some experiments in progress. Experiment number 1 has already happened. If you want to see how that worked out, there's a video uploaded, and spoiler alert, it's a great idea of what not to do. Hi, Wally. You decided to come help? How lovely. He's gracing us with his presence. So if you missed last week's recording, I'll fill you in. These guys, each tier got essentially loose food, so food not necessarily in the toilet paper roll, which is honestly fine in my opinion. I don't really like it. I don't need to have it in toilet paper roll every time. I just prefer. So I like to start with this tier 1, because this tier is the one we're supposed to be starving. Oh, hello, friend. There's clearly worms still in here. Ugh. Clearly. Alright. I don't really know what to do about this, but I don't... Oh, man, there's definitely more in here. I think we're going to have to consider moving this tier up like we did before and leaving it open and get some natural sunlight and force them down, because there's a lot more worms in here. Like, I almost feel like there's more worms in here than there was a few weeks ago, but for all I know, that could just be because they're hatching and starting to grow. I don't know, but I think we might have to move this one up to the top, at least for a day. But the important thing is the castings look beautiful in here. Okay, so let's say hi to little tier 2 here. And if you guys recall, tier 2 is the tier that we're doing essentially coconut core free. So we're not, some of the castings from other bins got put in here that might have coconut core, but essentially we're not actively putting coconut core in here. We're just using shredded paper and old paper towels. I definitely see some worms in here, so that's good. I'm trying to see over here where I know I fed, if there's any food. Okay, there's still a tortilla. Fine, those take a while. Oh, we still got some grapes. Okay, so they're still working down here. I'm not gonna feed them more because I don't want to overfeed them, and they're clearly still working on stuff. but the bedding is damp. It's not super wet, so I think it's okay. I will feel more comfortable leaving it, but just let me make sure. Okay, there's no remarkable exodus in the bottom, so that's good. All right, so I think we're gonna leave tier 2 as it is. And just if there's nothing wrong, I think, with this tier. I think if you guys just remember, we really only put like a scoop or 2 of worms from tiers 3 and 4 in here. So there's really not a tremendous amount of worms in here to even start this tier with. So let's take a look at tier 4. I'm just gonna throw this in here. Oops, that was on me. And this is tier 4. It's looking beautiful. Definitely very well processed. Feeling good about the number of worms I see in here. And I do try to be gentle when I'm digging through. So if you're using a little trowel or whatever this is, just be careful. So we've been feeding over here recently towards the right. So there's obviously more worms over here. And I believe this side over, and yeah, this is where we fed last week. So let's see how they did. Oh yeah, hey worms. Hey wormies. Oh wow, yeah, we got some hungry babies in here. All right, but there's no food. So clearly we can take more food. So that's great. What we're gonna do is go over here where there's not really a lot of worms, but there are still some, but it's close, you know, it's a close proximity. And we're gonna feed over here. So given that we didn't feed ultimately tier 2, I have an extra roll, sort of, depending on how you count. So I think we'll give 2 rolls to this tier here. And then oh, whoops, this one fell out. So we'll just put this in here. Give them some apple cores and stuff. So we've got 2 frozen rolls of food, although they're truthfully not the most full by anybody's standards, I think. But that's fine. I think that's a reasonable place to start. And then, let's see. We're going to put some paper towel down on top just to kind of insulate the cold a little bit, because for this next part, I'm going to lightly cover them a little bit. There's not really anybody in here. I mean, there might be a few guys, but not a lot. So we'll give them, I don't want them to be too cold, and I know that food's going to take a little bit longer because it's still like semi-frozen. I would consider it semi-frozen. I do normally try and have the food a little bit more defrosted, but I didn't want to wait too long again and have to record at night, and I've got a busy day. So we're going to feed them and we're going to figure it out. Otherwise, though, this tier is looking really good. I feel like they've made a lot of progress. Like, this is starting to look more like castings, I think, more and more every time we check on it, and they've really done really well in here. And there's a lot of worms, so the food's processing quickly. So this is kind of tricky. It's a tricky situation because you don't want to overfeed them. So you either have to feed them more food when you feed them, like once a week, or do more feedings that are smaller and more frequently. And that's what I'm still trying to figure out and navigate right now. So that's why we're giving them 2 rolls of food. And if you're new to vermicomposting, or maybe you have trouble with bugs, I swear once I started the feedings in toilet paper rolls again, like, cause I kind of did it when I started, and then I kind of stopped and got lazy and was just like throwing stuff in there. I really think it made a difference, because the toilet, if you think about it, the toilet paper has the food inside as a barrier, and so for the bugs, like the gnats and flies, let's say, to get to it, the entry points are really only at the end for a while until the worms break down the toilet paper roll itself. So it doesn't fully dispel any worms from puncturing holes and letting flies in and letting the flies figure out how to get in. It just makes it a little harder for them to get to. Tier 3, and then as always we just got some guys that have been hanging out up top and we don't want them to get scared, so we just try and make sure they get back in their safe habitat. But I love seeing them up here. It means they're happy, they're exploring. I do think there might be a little bit of mites, not a lot, but I don't know if you guys can see, there are little dots here. So there are little mites, so maybe there's a little bit excess moisture. And let's be honest, this is an ecosystem, right? Like there are other things in your bins besides the worms. So, but with the excess moisture, potentially can be more problems like mice. So, tier 3 is what we're looking at right now. This is our oldest tier that's active, if I recall correctly. Not seeing as many worms over here, but honestly, I haven't fed on this side in a while, but that's good because that means when we feed over here, oh, look, a little egg. You guys see it? Right here. Little egg. That's a worm egg. That's exciting. Good. Yeah, we've been feeding more. Oh, I was just about to say we've been feeding more on the right side, but case in point. And you can see another egg. I wonder if that's like a fairly fresh egg. That there's an egg right here. I think there's one. I think this is one. Could be just no, but that's definitely an egg. Anyway, we'll come back to that in a second. Let them. But we've been feeding on the right side mostly, so we're gonna. Yeah, there's definitely worms in here. All right. I don't want to disrupt too much, but I do want to kind of see what we're working with in here, guys. Okay, yeah, there's a lot of worms. Okay. Oh my goodness, so exciting. Look at all those worms. Okay. I know, it's a tricky thing because on one hand, you're like, you want to say hi to every worm and name everyone. Be like, hey friend, hey friend. But also, they're essentially like little vampires, right? Like they don't like garlic, they don't like onions, and they don't want to be out in the sun. So I can't bring myself to torture them. So this is going to be a frozen toilet paper roll with food, which apparently had some liquids freeze and drip out of, which is fine. No big deal. And then I just thought of something. We'll come back to it in a second. But we're going to put some, like, this is a partial paper towel underneath this, like I said, just to kind of dull out some of the cooler temperatures that we have in, because these are still pretty much frozen. The grapes, I forgot to take them out earlier. So we're just gonna lightly cover this stuff back up with some of our compost that's in here, but I don't really want to put too many worms on it because it's cold and they don't like the cool temperatures. So with that being said, we'll just put some of the limited shredded bedding that I have. Most of it's been going to my pre-compost experiment, which is totally fine. All right, cool. So we'll put some bedding on there for insulation, and also just for funsies, because the worms love the avocado shells. I meant to put some on the other layer. Whoops. Past me, forgot to take off the label. Happens more often than it should. And then I have like this one, which is kind of, well, you know what, let's use this one. And they like the shells, and you can do the same thing with like eggshell type stuff. They love it because it creates like a little above ground party area for them, if you will, because it's protected from the light. I'm going to put this one, it's like two of them stuck together, and put that one over here. It creates like this little like party dome essentially for them. And you know what, while we're here, let's just keep going. We'll just keep putting them on every tier. and give them like a little playground. Because then they don't have to be buried in the compost, the coconut coir, whatever you're using. And then they can hang out and kind of congregate, and it turns into like a worm ball party. I'm just gonna put this paper towel over here, or this paper plate here. Let's see. So we got tier 2, tier 4, we got tier 3, and then I just want to show you guys because I just have these all on the floor here. Granted, I do have puppies, so some of this is natural dirt, but this is the only real compost that came out. So those renters that are a little worried about making a mess, this is really not, what is the word? It's manageable. It's a manageable mess. So now what are we going to do about our tier that we're trying to, I don't want to say starve, but we're trying to empty out? Here's what we're going to do. With this being tier 3 here, our oldest tier, I am going to just take a paper towel, a clean paper towel, and I'm going to try and get as many of the castings and any worms that might be on the lid, because I don't want to, I'm going to leave the lid off for a little bit when we put the top, what was that, tier 1 or whatever, when we start doing that. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to try the sun method again. And, you know, I've had this work in the past. I think it speeds it up, but, you know, we're using the natural lighting of this area. This is a south-facing window we're looking at here. I guess this particular window is more like a southeast-facing window. But either way, we get a lot of great natural lighting over here. And while normally they don't like it, and I guess there's no scenario where they do really like it, what we're doing is we're encouraging them to relocate to another tier. So they're going to dig down into their tiers, hopefully. Yep, that was an oopsie. We're going to encourage the tier 1 group to bury down into tier 4 below them. Actually, pardon me, that is tier 3 we're looking at below hand. And in the past, I've had really good luck with the avocado method, where we leave the avocados and we let them kind of have their party, and then we can use a scooper and pull them out. But for some reason today, or not today, just with this tier, it hasn't been working as much. So, like, I guess there's a little bit of a worm ball party here. But here's hoping that some natural sunlight will encourage them to relocate. Like, they're using this avocado pit as a little party spot now. So because this, I mean, this, you can tell this stuff is beautiful, beautiful. And it's tricky because, like, see here, how long do you want to let it go? Because there's an egg here. You know, I saw a few eggs in here actually earlier when we were looking. So do you wait for the eggs to hatch? Do you try and hand sort them? If you saw some of my other harvest videos, you know that I do try to pull eggs out. But even with the one that I harvested last time, the container still ended up having a few worms in it. All right, UPS is here. We're going to be under attack. Oh my God. Big size.